A colleague has died in an accident. Immediately, my husband changed into his black suit and hurried off to the funeral home. His haste was out of the ordinary for just a colleague's funeral. Suspicious. Arriving at the funeral home where my husband was, an incomprehensible sight caught my eye. Unbelievably, my husband was acting as the chief mourner. Upon learning this fact, I was on the verge of raging with anger. He has betrayed me again. I will never forgive him. My name is Lily. I married my husband Keith 4 years ago. We both love to travel and have journeyed to various places, both domestically and internationally, 2 to 3 times a year. But now those trips are on hold because I'm currently 8 months pregnant. I've always wanted a child, so I nearly cried when I found out I was pregnant. While it might seem like smooth sailing from this description, I do have one concern. That is, my husband's infidelity. In fact, Keith cheated once just before we got married. The other woman was someone he met at a company-sponsored drinking party. The reason I found out about the infidelity was because I happened to see a message from her. A message arrived while Keith was in the bathroom, and I inadvertently saw it. The woman's WhatsApp icon showed a cute-looking female. I'm sure she used her own face as the icon. The icon read, Amy. Unfortunately, I discovered his infidelity the day after we sent out our wedding invitations. I was furious and confronted Keith. What's that message about? Are you cheating on me, by any chance? I'm sorry. It was just a lapse in judgment. Keith hastily bowed his head in apology. When I thought about becoming a married man, I felt a little lonely, but I promise I won't do it again. The only one I truly love is you, Lily. Given that our wedding preparations were underway and the invitations had already been sent, I decided to forgive him this one time. If you ever cheat on me again, I will never forgive you. With that emphatic statement, I had been trying to trust Keith since then. He was delighted when he found out about the pregnancy and still whispers words of love to me. I don't want to think that my husband could betray me again, but Keith has been acting a bit strange recently. That's because he started going to drinking parties frequently. Ever since his pre-marriage infidelity, he declared that he would not attend company drinking parties. Perhaps this was his own form of atonement. Instead, he often drank alcohol with me at home. But when I found out I was pregnant, I became absent. While I was satisfied with non-alcoholic drinks, it seems my husband was not. About a month ago, Keith suddenly said, I want to go to a company drinking party. I feel awkward about being the only one drinking alcohol, and I want the person I'm with to drink too. Of course, once the baby is born, I'll stop going. Is it okay if I attend drinking parties just during your pregnancy, Lily? 4 years into our marriage, he had truly been devoted to me. Even though Keith was clearly in the wrong for his infidelity, he reflected on his actions, came straight home after work, and helped with household chores. He spent most of his time with me. I hadn't forgotten about his affair, but at that time, my feelings of wanting to trust my husband were stronger. I decided to let Keith attend the drinking party. Then my husband happily said, Thank you. Of course, I won't go to the after party. I'll make sure to tell you by the day before when I attend a drinking party. Oh, that's right. I'll also come home with some desserts. What would you like? Well, the strawberry sponge cake from the bakery in front of the station. I'm pregnant, so I need to watch my weight. But it's fine when you're at a drinking party, right? But Keith only informed me about attending a drinking party the day before and bought me a cake just once. After that, he somehow ended up attending after parties. And there were many days when he came home after the day had changed. My heart felt uneasy with my husband's behavior. Feelings of wanting to trust and feelings of anxiety got all mixed up. Still, I felt reluctant to restrict his drinking party since I couldn't drink alcohol myself. I didn't want to bring up his past affair either. I have no choice but to trust. So I reassured myself and waited for my husband's return with a prayerful heart every time he went to a drinking party. That day was sunny, so I decided to rinse the newborn clothes. Having the tiny onesies on hangers to dry, just that made me feel wrapped in happiness. I can't wait to meet our baby. As I thought, with my hand on my belly, Keith, who had been sleeping, woke up. Oh, doing laundry? It makes me feel like baby is going to be born soon, right? I got so happy just hanging them up. Let's go shopping for the things we need together next time. Speaking of which, my mother-in-law said she'd buy us a crib. She wants us to let her know when we decide on the one we want. I have had a good relationship with my mother-in-law, who lives in the neighboring town since before we got married. Our relationship has become even better recently, thanks to my pregnancy. Cooking must be hard, right? She even comes to bring me some dishes. The opportunities to talk on the phone with my mother-in-law have increased. Don't worry, I'll come help out frequently after you give birth back home. Lily, you just need to think about the baby. Leave the rest to me. Her genuine excitement for the birth of her first grandchild makes my mother-in-law's presence very comforting. My husband often says this to me. My mom is really sweet to Lily, huh? I wish she'd be kind to me too. Not to me, but to our baby. Well, she's really good to me too. Conversations like this make me think that my anxiety about my husband might be overthinking. I'm about to become a mother, so I shouldn't be anxious about small things. Just when I thought that, Keith's smartphone rang. He seemed to not recognize the number displayed on the screen and had a puzzled expression on his face. Keith, feeling that the incessant call was not just a nuisance call, quietly picked up the phone. Hello? My husband answered the phone with a probing voice. The color drained from his face in an instant. He stood still for a while without saying anything, but then he pulled himself together and left the room. Feeling something was amiss, he turned ashen and began rummaging through the closet. What's wrong? Lily? Where's my black suit? I need it urgently. A black suit? What happened? Don't tell me. Something happened to your parents? No. My family is fine. It's a colleague. She died in an accident. A colleague? Although relieved that his in-laws were safe, there was something odd about my husband's behavior. For just a colleague's accident, he was in a tremendous hurry. Changing into the morning suit I had handed him, he left the house, his bed hair still uncombed. Suspicious. Thinking this, I opened the GPS app. When we were traveling, we once lost each other, and since then we kept it just in case. Was he hailing a taxi? The pointer indicating my husband's location was rapidly moving away from our house. The place where the pointer stopped was a funeral home. Determined, I decided to head to the funeral home, praying that my suspicion was just a needless worry. Keith, sitting in the front row where usually the main mourner sits, that seat would normally be occupied by the mourners, and that woman. I recognized the face in the portrait. In that woman, Keith had an affair with before our marriage. Her name, I think, Amy. Keith stood up and began to give a eulogy to the attendees. Unable to comprehend the situation unfolding before my eyes, I was frozen in place. I loved Amy with all my heart. I regret not having met her earlier. If I had met Amy before getting married, I wouldn't have married at all. We talked about being together someday, and just the other day my divorce was finalized. I'm deeply regretful that it has come to this. The moment I heard this eulogy, I heard something snap inside of me. Divorce? Finalized? What is he talking about? Lying nonchalantly about being divorced at a funeral? How many times does he have to betray me for his satisfaction? I won't forgive him, never. I confronted Keith, who had just finished his eulogy. Noticing this, he widened his eyes in surprise. Lily? Why are you here? That's not the point. What's the meaning of this? Explain it clearly. I told you earlier, didn't I? A colleague died in an accident. As my husband's voice grew smaller, mine became louder. Why are you the one hosting at a colleague's funeral? You'll give a satisfactory explanation, won't you? That's well. I remember this woman's face, I can't forget it. She is an unpleasant memory. Why are you hosting for this woman? She's the one you had an affair with, isn't she? My voice drew attention of the attendees. Keith, desperate to control the situation, faced the interested gazes. Calm down, Lily. There's a reason for this. It's not the relationship you're thinking about, trust me. But I continued to press him. A good reason? Let's hear it. If you want me to trust you, give me a satisfactory explanation. And what's this about being, quote, divorced? I'm still your wife, aren't I? I'll explain later. Please, be quiet. My husband gradually became irritated and eventually blamed me. There are people related to her here, don't you know? Isn't it rude? Arguing at a time like this, don't you feel embarrassed? Rude? Who's the one being rude here? You're the one lying to everyone. Look, everyone's watching. You're going to give an explanation that everyone else can accept, right? Explain why you said the divorce was finalized when you haven't even divorced me, your wife. Shut up, just be quiet for a moment. If you want me to be quiet, then explain it right now. As Keith and I glared at each other, a woman approached and suddenly slapped him in the face. A loud smack sound reached our ears. What? Surprised by the sudden event, Keith let out a startled voice. The woman shot a sharp glance at my husband and raised her voice as much as I did. You despicable man! We were fools for believing in a man like you, both Amy and me. Tears flowed from her eyes as the woman screamed loudly. I thought she should have stayed away from a married man. But you said you'd divorce your wife and that you truly loved Amy, so I supported you. That's why I asked you to be the chief mourner this time. But this betrayal is just awful. This woman seemed to be Amy's coworker. She had heard that Keith and Amy had reconciled about a month ago, and they were seriously considering marriage, so she supported them. Amy, who had no family, seemed to have adored this woman like a sister. And yet, she couldn't stand the fact that Keith hadn't even discussed the divorce with me, his wife. Upon learning the truth, I was also furious. I was so angry with myself for believing in such a man. I should have never forgiven him back then. I should have thoroughly condemned him for cheating, even once. I glared at my husband. Didn't I say back then that I would never forgive you if you cheated again? Don't think I've forgotten. We're getting a divorce, and I expect proper compensation. Wait, please. It was just a moment of weakness. I had a drink outside after so long and let my guard down. Do you really think I can put up with being cheated on twice because of a moment of weakness? This time I absolutely won't forgive you. I'm divorcing you no matter what you say. After all, you wanted the divorce, right? If you had met Amy first, you wouldn't have married me, right? As I sent a challenging look, borrowing Keith's words from his eulogy, he nervously glanced around, sweat forming from his forehead. Well, I had to say that or things wouldn't have been settled. That's true, isn't it? I'm not even a family member, but I'm the chief mourner. I had to say something like that or nobody would have been satisfied. I had no choice but to lie. I didn't want to lie if I could help it. What a desperate excuse. He's truly a hopeless man. I pressed my husband further. You probably told Amy that you were serious about the future and lured her in, didn't you? That's why you were in this mess. Stop playing the victim. Yes, Amy is at fault for cheating, but you created this situation. This is all on you. You reap what you sow. It's Amy's fault for taking those words seriously. Most people wouldn't believe that, would they? At my husband's words, I lost it. Don't mess with me. What do you think people's lives are, you trash? Becoming single and start your life over from scratch? I'll tell your parents about this. I'll raise this child. A man like you doesn't deserve to be a father. No, I don't want that. I won't divorce you, Lily. I want to build a happy home with you and our child. Cut the crap. Who would want to be with you? If you thought like that, you wouldn't have cheated in the first place. How much do you have to ridicule people to be satisfied? You're the worst. Wait, please, Lily. I violently shook off Keith, who was trying to pull my arm forcibly, ripping his hand away. Lily, wait, Lily! I heard my husband's cries, but I didn't look back as I left the scene. I immediately headed to my in-laws' house, sharing everything that had transpired. Upon hearing this, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, livid, summed up Keith to their house. Keith's face was stern when he arrived. Ignoring his demeanor, my mother-in-law berated Keith. What on earth have you done, Keith? Cheating at a time like this? And for the second time, not only have you betrayed Lily, but you've also deceived the other woman. You're no longer a son to us. We're cutting ties with you. Following the irate mother-in-law, my father-in-law also raised his intimidating voice. You're never setting foot in this house again. You'll carry the weight of your sins for the rest of your life. But Dad, Mom... I gently patted Keith, who was crouching on the floor. Keith quickly lifted his face, his eyes pleading for help. Ignoring his plea, I handed him a piece of paper. What's this? Yeah, it's a divorce paper. You'll fill it out right here, right now. Your parents agree with the divorce. Now, please, write quickly. I don't have time. I have a lot to do, including moving and preparing for childbirth. Are you serious? Can you raise a child alone, Lily? At my husband's words, I could feel myself losing my temper. You're the one who did this. It's too late to worry now. I have no intention of letting a lowlife like you hold our child. I'll rely on my parents, and your parents have said they'll help too. I don't need your help. I'll raise this child to be a wonderful person. Perhaps because I yelled at him with such force, Keith reluctantly signed the divorce papers. The topic of alimony and child support also came up, and we decided he would pay a lump sum amount, 3 to 4 times the average. It seemed like I wouldn't have to worry about money for a while. Afterwards, Keith began working a night shift to pay off the debt he accumulated from the alimony. He was working day and night without any time to drink or date anyone. On the other hand, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl a few months later. I'm currently living at my parents' house, doing the best to raise my child with their help. Even though we're divorced, I still keep in touch with Keith's parents, and they came over to my parents' house to see their granddaughter the other day. They brought many gifts and looked lovingly at their granddaughter. I dream of going on a trip someday with my parents, my daughter, and my in-laws. Right now, I am fully committed to raising my child. Looking forward to that day.